Hey. Um, it's a new year. Happy New Year. I wanted to talk. I had a lot on my mind and still do, but sometimes it feels pointless sharing it to those around me because they just won't understand or care or some other thing that they might say. It seems like the first two. One or the other and or both. Um what I've noticed is this. And this has been through like a lifetime of experience and, understanding human psychology, understanding people and interactions with certain individuals, and maybe because of who I am, certain people gravitate around me, and where I was born and who I was born into, and like whatever, right? All this kind of stuff, sociology. If people don't like you, it doesn't matter if you're like right? Like if you make a sound, logical, you know, emotionally considerate point, like none of that matters if they just don't like you off it. Um, Conversely, if they do like you, then you could low key almost disagree with them all the time, and they might still just be okay with you, which is weird because like you can just be like, let's say you're someone they dislike, you could be extremely agreeable and maybe that'll get them to like you, and then at that point maybe you can start to disagree. But then if they didn't like you already and you felt like maybe you had to win them over, then they just might go back to not liking you, or they might just you know start to accept you more and hear you out because they're like, oh well, this guy's pretty cool. Let's hear what he has to say. This girl's pretty cool. But if they don't like you and they're faking liking you, then it doesn't matter whatever you like, anything you say. There's the saying like, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? And I don't think I can have either because people just like genuinely don't seem to like me. This isn't like a woe is me, but I think the kind of air that I've heard I can give off at some time is like, some people might think they might say, yeah, Sam, you're very smart, and tell me all the time you're very smart, but they don't like my intelligence. Like they're seems like they're intimidated by it if they're the ones who are calling me smart. I don't think I'm that smart at all. But if a bunch of people are telling me this, then, I'm inclined to believe them, just because, like, why would everybody lie about the same thing? They might, but, and not everybody, obviously. But a lot of people who don't know each other, a lot of people who do know each other. So, yeah, but they don't like me. No one likes like a know-it-all. And if you're a smart person, you know more than other people. And so they don't like that because then no matter how articulate you are, no matter how empathetic you are, no matter how patient you are, and someone feels like you're always getting the better of them, which that's how they'll feel. They won't think you're informing them, you're enlightening them. They won't feel like, wow, I always learn so much from this person. You know, they'll be like, this person always thinks they're right. They're just, you know, and they always just make these points that are like, ugh, dude, I know I'm wrong. Just let me win. And they won't care. They'll just want to win because they're not. A lot of people, if you're not really, if you're not really trying to have like an honest conversation, you might view conflict as like a win or lose, I guess, zero sum game. I think that might be the term. Like you either win conflict or you lose conflict. And I think the smartest people want to resolve conflict. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be like a win or lose thing. It's just like it's putting an end to it. But they're also looking to put an end to it in a way that is, favorable to both parties, like a reasonable end, like not just I'm right, you're wrong. Now other people may be coming from like an illogical, and it's not always about logic, right? But like they might have an invalid premise, or not have, they will feel as if what they're talking about, because they feel so strongly, like they're so emotionally tied to what they're saying, they'll feel as if when that is questioned and certain things, their certain responses aren't to their expectations, they will feel as if this is a challenge. It's the same thing as like you're a smart guy, but then if you ask too many questions to the person in power, it's like, okay, now you're challenging my authority all of a sudden, instead of just wanting to learn more and getting more information and being inquisitive. They're gonna view your questions as like detracting from their position of authority, right? They're gonna be like, what, don't question me, that's insubordination. Just do what I say. And I think a lot of terrible things have been carried out by people who were just following orders. And if the chain of command is rusted or corroded, then maybe we should change the link, replace it, or stop following the chain. Like, I don't know if this is going to make any sense, or if it makes any sense now, but people have to just like you. It's important that people like you. If you are dealing with individuals who do not take the necessary time to have perspective that is broad, numerous, and conflicting with their biases already, because we all have biases, right? Like my bias comes from my perspective, and my perspective comes from my upbringing, my place in the world and society, and also just with my mindset on things. So psychology and sociology, right? It depends on my psyche, and it depends on my place. someone who is rich might inherently be more like carry more classes views than someone who's poor. Um, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that psychology will follow based on their position in life, right? Based on where they are in society. Like a richer person might potentially believe in, you know, more like class equality. And a poorer person might just want to get rich so that they can be classes. Like, right, they just will be like, look, man, these broke niggas, I don't trust no broke niggas. I need to make some money so that I can get away from broke niggas. This broke niggas is the death of me type shit. And that's obviously being crude and reductive about really the depth of it all. It's more like poverty is like a disease. And so when you're struck with it and those around you are struck with it, if you're around it, people feel like it's easy to get infected again, you know? And so they stay away from those sort of places, which then inherently becomes a bit of classist because obviously it's not like you just want to flex your riches on people who are, you know, have nots. But it doesn't mean that you shouldn't want or have nice things yourself just because of that. But we would probably be safe to say that if you are rich around people who aren't doing as well, they might grow envious of your position. And even if you're not rich, you just seem to be doing well. They just, there's like this jealousy that some people carry that comes from ego and insecurity in self, you know? And also, you know, part of it also comes from the injustices that happen in the world and a sense of, you know, wanting fairness to a degree. But yeah, if it's like envy to the point where they'll do something like harmful to you, then it's either because it's some shit like the classes, like the people in the higher classes, like the treatment of poorer people is just so negative that they, you know, decide to do something about it. Like, you know, it's like you can only bully or push someone down for so long before they try to stand back up and, you know, settle things. They take matters into their own hands and do what they can to level the playing field, or, you know, just out of like pure, like, again, ego, jealousy. And there's a lot of other reasons, but I think those are two good umbrellas. Like, you're either getting treated poorly and you're like, we're not going to take it anymore, or you're like, man, that nigga think he better than me. Them niggas think they better than me. Watch, you know, like, and it's like a spiteful kind of nature. But yeah, so in a lot of places, it's important that people like you. If you are someone who is somewhat intelligent, I think, right? Because they call me this. So I would think that if people have said this to me, what I think is that when you're smarter, you care, but you don't care as much. And this is a really, really, really fine line that I think is an important distinction, because you could be super intelligent and just have lack empathy. And that's where you get people of like the higher class, right? Who lack empathy towards people who are doing worse than them. Essentially, they look at that, if you're like impoverished, that's a deficiency of character rather than like, you know what I mean? Rather than like circumstantial, rather than it being like, you know, due to like environmental things, you know? And I don't mean like global warming or something, like, kind of, but like, you know, more like your environment's a little toxic. And so you have to first, before you even get started where everyone else is, you have to like unlearn certain tendencies and practices and beliefs that were, you know, necessary at the time, but, you know, now they've become maladaptive, like coping mechanisms to just like survive. And where you might be, it's like they just don't understand. A lot of people don't care to understand the background or understand where people come from or why they may be feeling or being a certain way. They just want them to produce certain things for them because that's their expectation. I don't give a fuck how you feel or what you've been through or what you have in your life. And then the lack of empathy is like, I've been through shit too. And like, obviously you don't want to compare struggle to struggle, but you're like, if I've been through shit and I got through it, or blank, 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 someone else had it worse. And then you just kind of invalidate their entire experiences in favor of just achieving results. So a lot of people look at this and say like, okay, this is like just business. Like, man, they just got to get their shit done. But more than anything, people are seeing interactions and relationships with people as more transactional business relationships. And this is the scary part to me, because it's not as if we aren't, and I'll get back to the lack of caring about what people think, but it's not like business rhetoric applied to personal relationship means that they are optimized in favor of anything beyond achieving a result through like a transactional interaction. Like, they, by nature, a personal relationship which should not be for the sake of being transactional will become that. It'll be like, I want this from you, so like a salesperson, I'm always gonna buddy you up. The world just becomes full of salespeople, and they're all trying to sell you on this fantasy of like this beautiful relationship. Oh my gosh, we're so great for each other. I'll be so good to you. And like, it doesn't mean they're not gonna do things to try to make it happen, of course. But realistically, it's not something that is like sustainable, and it's not something that is real. Or if it's something that comes around, it's just extremely toxic, because it's transactional. It's like, I want this. So this is interesting, right? If a person thinks you would have, so I'll talk about my own personal experience. I've been told, again, I'm like a, pretty smart guy. Had a long promise and everything like that. So people might look at me and see that I would be like a good spouse because I could potentially be a high earner. If not a high earner, then I have patience and empathy more than others that they've run across. And so I've had plenty of like women, like friends in my life who are like, hey, if we're like 30 something or both of us aren't married, like, so they try to like sell me on this shit like we're gonna get together later, because like they want to have their fun and be with other people. And like, obviously that's, I mean, I'm almost flattered, but like, not really, it's like, okay, you don't want me now. You know what I mean? Like, you want me if all else fails. Oof, like that's a different perspective to have. I could be like, wow, these girls want to spend forever with me, just not right now. Or it's like, all else fails. Damn, bro, I couldn't find a nigga. Nigga didn't want me because I was terrible. Sam was always nice. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I hate that, because I think they assume that I would want the same thing, because maybe they don't think that I could get anything else, which is insulting, for one. And two, it's also like they think that we're so good together, or we could be so good together, that they want me to see that same thing later on. Because if they don't do any sort of negative, we don't have any sort of negative interaction, we don't have a huge falling out, then like, why wouldn't he be, down to give it a shot? Clearly we had this connection, and I don't think that's uncommon or unnormal and doesn't necessarily work. I just think trying to do that to a man is extremely disrespectful, but it is one of those things that's also like, shit, all I gotta do is play the long game. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if I really wanted these people, and like, why would you play the long game, right? It's not a game at all. Or like, if a dude just wants to like have sex with a woman, and he's like gonna be like, oh baby, I love you, you know, I'm gonna take you out. And he might even like trick on her, you know what I'm saying? Like do all sorts of things, like buy her this, take her here, do this, pay for that. But really, he just wants a consistent person that he can fuck or some shit like that. You know what I mean? Like that kind of shit is also transactional. And these are the kind of interactions I'm saying, right? Their transaction with me, for instance, would be like, okay, let's have this exchange further down the line, right? They'll be like, what's the, not buy now, pay later, but like they'll put that shit on layaway. Is that what layaway is? I don't know how layaway works. Basically, they'll do like a save for later type shit with me. And then other people in the other example be like I want this from you now. So then I'll pay whatever price it is, you know, just so I can get this now and keep this. And I don't think this is what love is, but I think we are so far in human psychology that we know how to like simulate love and make people extremely like connected and devoted to a cause or a person, right? That's why like religion is so strong too. And I'm kind of getting all over the place, but yeah, with understanding human psychology and people being in a like less likely now to trust their own judgment to achieve certain results or just to be, right? It's more like, okay, somebody somewhere has done or been doing a thing that I have somewhat an interest for because I saw that online, because I had an idea, because I saw a friend doing it, whatever the reason is for wanting to be or do a thing. So what they'll do, and this is not a bad idea. This is not saying that it doesn't work and it's bad and we shouldn't do things like this. But then you'll look at people who have achieved in that area or the field, or you'll look at strategies that have been developed to achieve or do certain things, and then you mimic those. So a lot of society has just become a lot of mimicry. It's like, okay, somebody somewhere has done the thing. I'm just going to mimic them until it works for me because this is like a method. We kind of break it down to a science. So they've broken down relationships to like a science. Business wise, that can also for a lot of people carry over to personal relationships, and that would make just like a business. The whole point is to like, you know, have a transaction that makes them profit. They will do the same thing in personal relationships. They will do things so that they can, instead of profit, let's say benefit, right? They receive some sort of benefits from it rather than it being the benefit of being with the person themselves and enjoying the interaction that they have with them, no matter what it is, right? If the interaction isn't a positive benefit, they may not see. This is why you see certain languages like, oh, if this relationship doesn't serve you anymore, like let it go. If it's like this person isn't doing that XYZ, if they're not doing like blank, like a lot of language that's just like a meet my expectations or get out of here. And I'm not saying this is like means you should just be let down and continually get let down for people around you or lower your expectations for the people around you. It's not saying that's the better option. But we do know that if you care and love something, you try you at least try to like have it work. For a relationship, for instance, romantic or platonic, whatever, you run into conflict inevitably, and at the sign of conflict, it's big or small, you don't just decide that it isn't serving me any longer and then just like leave it. You at least give it an attempt to repair, and maybe longer than you should in some instances, but we usually do give it an attempt and we stay it, right? It's not like we just go with the nuclear option every time. Oh, it's a conflict, delete the whole relationship. Oh, you disagreed with me? Go. But I think going back to an earlier point, and again, I'm all over the place, so hopefully this kind of makes some sense. It's like that's why people want you to like them, because then at that point it is harder for you to separate yourself from them. Therefore, they can continue to benefit from having you around. And if they can't benefit from you, then they don't want to to have you around. That's what people look at. And that's how a lot of people will preach, like, this is how you get to the next level. This is how you get rich or famous, or this is how you be successful. Like, you only want to be surrounded by like go-getters, and this person can do this and that person does that. And so therefore all of your friends or people you associate with, or let's just say your network, let's just say that your network are all people who can positively benefit you, right? And so then in that way, you're not a liability through all these people, because you want to be the never should be the smartest person in the room, essentially, right? But you have to be someone who then offers them something, and it may be lesser than what they offer you, which is favorable for you, because then you can be the beneficiary of far more gifts, right? If you're just like, I don't know, let's just say you're like the fucking, what's a field that's less, like, I'm trying to think, like, I'm like, okay, if there's like a CEO, right, of a company, and then the secretary, and then the fucking, well, not secretary, the CEO, the fucking CFO, the COO, and then you're just like some, like the secretary or like a regular employee. The regular employee benefits the most by being in this circle, but they also benefit from having the regular employee in there, just because now they can have like a spokesperson for, their fucking their employees, and have them either speak favorably about them, and like, this is a wide example, so it may not even land all the way, but like, they may not even have that. Likely they're not going to have that dude in the room, and they'll probably most definitely have other group conversations without this person. But if that person, that employee, is in that room, they benefit a lot. And that's the kind of person everyone has to be. We're all just like, okay, let's all try to get as far as we can so that we can be in rooms with like CEOs and like fucking, I don't know, high level earners, right? Doctor, engineer, lawyer people, right? Always have these sort of people in your life. Therefore, you can benefit from their skills. Have a mechanic friend too, right? Like, it's like, these are things that make a lot of sense and aren't necessarily wrong to do, but create a very like small viewpoint, narrow viewpoint of people and their, like, I guess, usefulness, like, it's just, what have they done for me? What can they do for me? And if it's just like, bring me joy, it's like, well, I can bring myself joy, or it brings me joy to have these things done, so I will be around these people rather than that. And I get it. I'm not saying these things are necessarily wrong. I am saying that they create a larger problem, which makes people very classist, closed-minded, and essentially transactional as far as their personal relationships, because a business isn't going to keep a relationship because they just like the guy unless they can afford to do so. And what does that even mean? Like, right? That's just like not necessarily like it's an afford to. And that similarly can apply, right? If I can afford to keep this person around, because it's like they're not so much of, I can afford a little bit of loss, that is like, that's not a thing a business would do. I don't think, they might keep it at a loss just to maintain a good like relationship with them. But even that's the transactional, maybe like, okay, hey, if you do better, then you can come back around, which is like the whole, we'll wait till you're 30, Sam, so that we can get married with you, or whatever the fuck. I don't know how all of this matters, or if it does matter. But it's just what I see, man. It's like, I see a lot of transactional relationships. I see a lot of simulation of personal connection rather than real, genuine connection, which you can always feel the difference if you are looking for that. If you're looking for it, if you're just looking to have a need met, you just want someone to scratch that itch, then anything can seem like real, because you're not itchy anymore. But once you see through the veneer of all these like fake, I don't even know if they're fake, they're like, this is the most confusing part about it. if someone who's acting like you're who they like, let's say, let's use the word love. If someone who's acting like they love you do the same thing as a person who would actually love you, if you don't understand the intention or the mindset behind the person who isn't acting, what would be the difference? And a lot of people, I don't think, can see that difference because we know how to act and simulate it because of the movies that we have, because of the TV shows we have, and because of how these things get romanticized and end up becoming what is in people's heads as what things should be because of the celebrity relationships that we see. And we don't ever know and stop and ask ourselves, like, hey, just because they're checking the boxes at ABC, does that mean they're doing so because they love me? And if you don't care, then that's when it just becomes transactional. It's like, okay, well, they check the boxes. I don't care whether their intentions are pure or not. Check these boxes. I think most people would rather get those boxes checked rather than find out if they, find a person who wants to but might fall short. If you can check ABC and I'm looking for ABC, perfect. You're the guy. You're the girl. You're the business. You know what I mean? But if you can do A and C, you know what I mean? Sometimes you're still working on B. They won't take the disappointment of loving someone who might fall short in certain areas, because why settle, right? Like, we always should be striving for the best. Why not settle for someone who could check all the boxes, even if the reasons why they are doing it aren't so pure? You could still benefit and you don't have to lack B. And that sucks. But I can understand it. All right. Going back to not caring, because that's the fine line we're trying to draw, right? Kind of all over the place. The fine line of not caring is either not caring and pursuing essentially that line of thinking I was saying. All right, I don't care. I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to get this. I don't care whether they mean it or not, or they're trying to do it for good reasons or not. As long as I receive this, things that I've expected or that I've desired, it's good. And then there's the not caring that's like, okay, I understand that people will not like who I am. Because of this, I will not try to appease them. And this is a hard fucking balance. This is I will not try to appease them. I will not try to please them. I will try to authentically bring myself to them every time in hopes that we can meet each other in a real place of understanding. If we do not, I can be not happy with it, but I can live with this and not want to mold myself or them into what I would want from them through underhanded means, such as being or doing certain things to gain favor or to gain things like that from them. And so this is the confusing part about it. It doesn't mean you don't necessarily try to help or change or rectify behavior that you don't agree with. It does mean that if this occurs, you can meet someone in the middle and understand that we all do have shortcomings and it's okay, but you also have enough self-respect to know when, I guess self-respect's not the right word, but it's what people would use normally. But you have a limit. You know what I mean? You're like, okay, someone can mess up 100 times. That's cool. But 101 times might be too much. And then, now I have to talk. But you also understand it's if they don't mess up 100 times consecutively, but they mess up 101 times, it's okay, this is a human being, this isn't a robot. This isn't a fucking expectation machine, right? This is a human being who can make mistakes and will often make mistakes and always make mistakes. You know what I mean? It's just, where do they fail you and what areas do they fail themselves? And whether or not you wish to help them overcome those, or whether or not you want to be around them if they don't. So you don't care. You're like, okay, I don't care. I want to be here. and it's like I want to be here because of this person, or I don't care what they think about me if I'm trying to help them, you know what I mean, realistically, or I don't care to try to be like someone they like because they're not going to like me anyways, and I might as well just be myself. I don't care to, you know, be myself to a fault too. Like I will also find a balance, and it's like a weird distinction that is so hard to describe. It's so hard to describe. I'm in therapy now, and I think in my therapy they describe it as like self energy. They're practicing IFS therapy, which is internal family systems therapy, and just like a rough overview of that is basically like every person has a bunch of different parts, and those parts get like enmeshed with each other, and they bury or basically obscure the self. But when you are in your self energy, it's like you're like positive and you're yourself and you're okay and you're like authentic, and you can observe these parts and these thoughts and these things, but they don't control you, right? You're not like, oh, I'm upset immediately. My initial reaction is to be frustrated, so I'm going to act upon this frustration. It's like a reaction, right? It's more of a like, okay, I'm frustrated and I will choose to allow myself to be frustrated, or, you know, I won't allow myself to fall into certain patterns of, you know, reacting to this frustration. And then, you know, either one could be self energy. And that's the interesting thing, right? I think that's a good sort of way to describe what it is based on studies and, you know, psychology. But like saying you don't care is more of a negative connotation, and so I don't think it accurately lands with certain people just due to the language being like a lack of care rather than like in a like closeness to self, like, you know, or embodiment of self. And I do think that's exactly why language is hard to utilize, because it can inherently be manipulative and obscure the actual meaning of certain things, as long as it lands favorably to the ears, you know, which listen. So like, you're fat, you're overweight. These are the same thing in a lot of instances, but one of them will hurt your feelings or not. And so like, I think the don't care is being like, you could tell someone they're fat and be like, I didn't mean that mean. But it also means like, that's kind of letting go of your ego to hear that, to be like, someone's calling me fat and I don't care that they're saying this. But why I'm saying people will like you is because they wouldn't like you to say, hey, you are fat. They would like you to say you are overweight. And if you say this sort of thing, they might not even like it, but I would say they'll like you more, right? Comparatively. So the language that you use will always have to be favorable or palatable to those who are listening. And when you are more in yourself, or you don't care, you do not tailor your language to be favorable to those around you, because you understand that they will interpret your words or actions through their biases, through their perspectives, and they will not consider it if they are not close to self, or if they care so much about how things are supposed to be. Essentially, they want this certain expectation to be met. They have this ego that they won't let go. Like, I won't let someone speak this way to me or say these things to me. It's like an egoic thing, and it's like an expectation thing, to care so much and not to be able to separate the two. But if framed that way, I think it lands worse for the listener, because then they're like, well, I don't have an ego, or like, no, I'm not, I don't have any expectations, or, you know what I mean? But at the same time, if they say like, if you don't demand your respect, you're not going to get it, right? So some people feel like they have to demand and get their respect by being these people who set hard boundaries. They would call them boundaries, but they're more like expectations on how the world and the people around them should treat them. And this is important too, but it can be misused in a way where you're now enforcing your will on other people, and if they don't act right or act how you want them to, then you either kick them to the curb, or you teach them a lesson, or you anything, rather than just kind of also accepted, but also work towards reformation in a positive manner for both parties. Because in a way, you're not just supposed to accept shit. Like shit, if someone's just like, "Hey, I'm gonna make you food," and then shits on the plate and then hands it to you, you're not just gonna eat it and be like, "Good food," because like you just want to appease them. You're not gonna care. You're gonna, "Hey, this is shit. I don't want this." And they're going, "What?" Like, "No, I made this for you," and da da da. Like, then they're gonna try to feed you their bullshit. Is the point, right? With the transaction and with the fake love and everything. Like, they will feed you this bullshit, and you not caring is your ability to not eat it if you know what it is, but also be like, "Hey, do you need help in the kitchen? What do you have? We can make something together." I might just go out to eat then. If you want to eat this, great. Like, you have to find a way to work into it with these people. But a lot of people will just try to feed you the bullshit and convince you that it's not that, so that they can be right and they can win. And if they like you, more oftentimes than not, or you like them, let's say that, more oftentimes than not, they feel as if they can convince you of this. But if they don't like you, even if you had a gourmet meal in front of their plate, if it didn't look like what they wanted it to be, or they didn't expect it to be what they wanted it to be, they still would have a hard time swallowing this, hard time eating this. That's why I think the term like a hard pill to swallow works for harsh truths and harsh realities. But these things aren't necessarily giving you like permission to say or be anything in a certain way, but they also don't prevent you from telling it like it is, I guess. But less than telling it like it is, it's telling it how you feel, and understanding that, listen, I would hope that you would be able to hold space and make room for what I do feel, but I can understand if you won't always be able to, and if times you fall short and we do argue. And so the reconciliation process is then the most important part, because it can be like okay, I hurt your feelings, you hurt mine, boom, right? And that might be healthy, but then an in-depth discussion might need to be had in other instances to prevent this from occurring in the same way, because a conflict will occur, but if it occurs the same exact way, that may not be preferable, right? Let's say a conflict occurs in like war happens, thousands, fucking 100,000s, a bunch of people die. And so the idea of like a treaty or like not going to war again or ending the war is to, how do we avoid this so that when we get into conflict again, we don't have thousands of people die again? That would be the ideal solution towards that. Like, we don't just do it again and then try to make it worse or try to make the same equal amount if we are looking towards something favorable. But not everything should be war. But a lot of people like to look at it that way. They like to look at this like, this is an obstacle, I'm going to run it down. This is a thing, a barrier, I'm going to run it down. And in ways, this can be like very motivational speak, because a lot of people let these barriers prevent them from doing certain things. But if your entire barrier is like a societal mindset of like individualism and of self-preservation above all, even at the destruction of everything else, then there isn't like these walls become invisible and so tall and so sturdy that it's like you're trapped by nothing, essentially. And that is the scariest part, because people will see nothing. It's like you're a mime stuck in this box, and everybody's just like, just get out. And it's like, you don't understand. I can't. Because the entire fabric of the reality around me would have to change. And that's less realistic, right? In a way, it's like, if you're like, oh, the world needs to change before I can, you know what I'm saying? But you do your best to try to make a change in the world. You're the change that you want to have, be done, or you want to see. And so that's why if it doesn't catch on, it's harder for that to become a reality. So then who do you become? It's like, if you can't beat them, join them. And you're not even trying to beat them. It's like, hey, if we can't collab, if we can't work together, then we're going to work against each other. It's about collaboration, cooperation, when most businesses would look at it as like a competition. And that's why having like a business mindset will be worse, because even if the competition is like, let's collab, it's still for the point of competition, or the transactional point, which ultimately leads to someone wanting to win. They want to compete. And so this is okay. Everything comes back down to, on a rap level, Kendrick Lamar, Drake. People love Drake. Drake has positioned himself to be an extremely likable guy. Kendrick Lamar has done less than that. He's not tried to make himself an extremely likable person. He's not going out to fans and doing this and, like, you know, doing funny jokes and shows and appearing on SNL to do skits and shit. He's like, I'm going to go and do music and have my hair not braided, and, you know, I'm going to rap these songs and do a silly, funny voice, and also talk about the plight of the black person and, you know, modern times, and also talk about how, like, I am radically black, but also have a fan base that is definitely, you know, white as well. And so I have to deal with what it means to be attempting to speak to my own people while having, you know, people who aren't that listen and receive my message rather, you know, than my own people. And that's a hard place to be at, where Drake is like, well, he always kind of wanted to be accepted. He always kind of wanted to be accepted by his people and by everyone, his people being black and white people, right? So he's kind of like a chameleon in that way. Kendrick Lamar has been less of a chameleon than Drake has. And they say in business that the best thing that you should be is a chameleon. Kendrick Lamar doesn't care. If you see Chains and Whips, he said, therapy taught me how to open up. It also taught me I don't give a fuck. And that's the important bar there. Or Whips and Chains and Whips, it's the Clips song he's on, Kendrick Lamar and Clips. And that's the important thing about it, because it's like, you have to get to a point of not caring what people think about him. And that kind of helped him succeed a lot more, because it was kind of like, man, I fucking hate everything you choose to be, Drake, and you as a person, because if you're choosing to be it, it's you now. And Drake kind of just had to, like, make fun of him in a way that was like an attack on, like, certain things that have happened. It was like Kendrick Lamar attacked his character, which is a terrible strategy to do in terms of, like, winning an argument or making a solid point, unless it's like a rap beef and the whole point is to attack a person in order to expose their flaws and their inconsistencies and their shortcomings as a positive person. So he's doing this, whereas Drake was doing I think the normal thing most people would attempt to do, which is to paint their opponent in a negative light, therefore winning through that. I think if you look at it, you could see very simply that it's the opposite for a lot of people. They'd be like, no, well, like he said, I fucking hate you as a person. Isn't that more him trying to make Drake look like a bad person? And it's like a yes and no. It's like, more than anything, what he's doing is exposing certain things, whereas it looks like Drake is doing this. And this is why image and optics are important, and why not being able to look on things beyond the surface level is kind of like the detriment to society, like media literacy specifically. Because many people would probably say, here are direct lyrics from Kendrick Lamar. Tell me this isn't him just basically like defamation of his character and saying shit like that. Where Drake is kind of just more like, you know what I'm saying? The baby should be Dave Freeze. Might be Dave Freeze. But it's like, no, he's just like, dude, you, like, what have you done for the community beyond going to, this is why Not Like Us is great. And it's a victory lap of this. But he's like, bro, you run to Atlanta when, like, these are people who maybe you don't like. And Kendrick's basically like, nigga, I don't even interact with these niggas. So it's not like I'm so much better because I'm going over there and I'm interacting with these motherfuckers. And I'm like, I'm the guy who's really over there making change and difference like that. I'm really putting people on. Like, he's not saying that. So it isn't to put Drake down to make himself better. It's to be like, nigga, you ain't shit. And his whole point is he's always told us he isn't shit either, but at least he's trying to be. He's like, I am the shit. I've tried to help the community. I think, what song is this? Element? We said last album, and Element, this is on Damn, and this is like, again, this is always just going to become down to Kendrick Lamar and Drake because I'm black. I listen to rap. Both of them were my favorite artists at one point. And as far as media practice, Drake, I think, is a better business person than, he's a better business entity than Kendrick is, but Kendrick, I think, is a better artist and therefore may be a better person, because typically a good artist will be okay with potentially disappointing their fans and the larger people as a whole in order to preserve the artistic integrity of their work, whereas a good business will decide to pander to what is popular and trending at the time in order to essentially like make the most profit out of this certain thing. Now, a business shouldn't always be so like, a business shouldn't be so like rigid, right? You want to be flexible in a lot of ways. And I think in a lot of ways, this is where Kendrick had to go to therapy for. Anyways, Element, he says, last album, I try to uplift the black artists, but there's a difference between black artists and whack artists. And I'm quoting Kendrick's certain songs to highlight a point of him being like, you know what? I am attempting to help my community as a whole with this music, but they make shitty things. Like, look at the things that we promote, right? Whether it's promiscuity and, you know, trapping and shit like that, things that like damage the community because we're doing it to ourselves in order to make a profit off of sales and then spend it outside of community. We're not transferring wealth to one another. It's like we're taking wealth from it and then putting it out. And that's the same sort of strategies that other businesses would employ. And that's why we don't like gentrification. You feel me? They pull up, they come into the hood, they extract money from the hood, and then the hood got to move. You know what I mean? Like the people in the hood, in the ghettos, they can't live there no more. Nigga, all your money's getting extracted from there and going to someone who lives on up street. And this isn't just to say this is like a black thing. This is like a poverty thing. This is a being lower and at the bottom thing, right? You don't work and stick together. Instead, you fight amongst each other because the people above you are like dangling a carrot in front of your head. And so now you're in a race to grab a carrot, which has been purposely placed out of reach for you to run in a race where once you get there, you're not going to see how many people you've had to trample on and push down to get there. You're just going to be so happy that you got the reward in the first place. And this is like the worst part of a lot of things. Anyways, I'm kind of rambling, and I think talking in generals is hard because a lot of people are like, well, the world isn't like that, and there's tons of good people out there, and I didn't have C, and blah, blah, blah. Or they're going to be like, that's just the way the world is, Sam. You need to get with it and get... You know what I mean? Stop letting these invisible things be problems that you don't have and blah, blah, blah. And self-improvement. Get better, nigga. Stop complaining, nigga. Don't stop making other people your problem. If other people can succeed having less or been through worse, then why the fuck are you complaining and trying to act like this is such a broken system? Niggas is rich. Niggas can make it rich. Look at it. But these are like survivor bias standpoints, and these are, I think, perspectives that lack consideration of like many of the problems that continue to exist for the people who are working towards certain things that are unable to achieve it, not just due to their lack of trying, like, right, lack of effort, lack of willpower, lack of skill or expertise, but due to lack of bending towards the will and the way that others have made it to be. They must basically fall in line so that they can reap the rewards and benefits or not. I'll bring up another artist that I like listening to. There's an artist named Jameson, JMSN, and he made a song called Soft Spot. That song basically blew up. I think he had a few other songs blow up from back in the day. It was like an R&B sort of house. It was like a house song. He did like R&B and shit in the past too. His roots come from him doing like rock music. So his next album, I think it's, I have to double check, but I'm pretty sure his next album, you would think, you know what I should do? I should capitalize off of the like favorable reception that I received from this song and make more like it. I should make a whole album that basically is just more soft spot, right? This nigga makes a fucking grungy ass rock album and it's like, wow, what an idiot. In a lot of ways it's like, dude, don't do anything but that. Make more of the other thing. But he didn't, and he didn't because now that he was able to basically blow up from the album Soft Spot, which whether he blew up from it or not is I would say subjective and probably not, but he had a song go viral, let's say that. This nigga made an album that's the complete opposite. And I was having a thought to myself about this. Now, Drake is an artist, and this is a weird balance to try to understand. He's an artist who've tried many genres, who has tried different genres, right? He's tried a lot in his career, artistically, musically, right? Kind of like, oh, I won with the rap side. I can make pop music. I don't think he's been on rock songs. I'm going to make like reggaeton, you know what I mean? Beyond that kind of song. So you have to think, is this an artist who wants to constantly reinvent himself and also, do something and try something new as an artist because, he wants to remain in his creative energy? Or is this an artist who is creatively bankrupt and will do whatever it takes to get his name on whatever is the most popular, trendy sound at the time, right? I think something like what the artist Jameson did is someone who is, I don't even say necessarily trying new things exactly, but is remaining within their creative, like they're keeping creative integrity at the forefront of their production. If they're not even like sounding production, but like what they produce. It's like, my nigga, he probably just really fucks with grungy music and wanted to make a grungy album because that's what he felt. Rather than Drake, where it's like, why did he make this pop album? Why did he make this electronic album? It's probably because rap wasn't selling as well. And he knew that if he just sang on a song, or why did he do this feature? Oh, because this sort of music is really popular. They had a big song of the year that was in this genre, that if he makes a song with an artist in this genre, it can be like seen as like, look, I'm helping another smaller artist, or I'm helping a larger artist, or I'm collaborating, and therefore I am a lot more creative in that way. Because look at me, I'm not contained to just my one genre. I'm not just a rapper, right? I'm not just a hip hop artist. Like, I am a global artist. And I think the optics of that are confusing for some, because some people might just hear this and be like, nigga, what the fuck are you talking about? It's the same shit. In fact, one of them is better because look at him. He's collaborating. He's doing more. Isn't that what you were saying? It's not competition. It's not collaborate. It's about collaboration. It's about cooperation. And this is like the thing that makes it so hard to see when people do like underhanded and subversive, like this whatever, when they do like tactics that seem like they're doing the right thing, right? Tactics that make them look likable, that make them seem like they're doing all the right thing. You have to kind of try to understand the intention behind it to see if it is true or not. Most people won't care because if they just want the result, then the result is what they receive. They don't care why. Nigga, did you buy me this to bribe me? No. But if you did do it to bribe them, it's like, nigga, I don't care. I wanted the money anyways. A bribe is only a bribe for the person who sees it for what it is. Otherwise, it's a gift. But there's a difference between a gift and a bribe, and we know that. but they can often look like the same thing, and that's confusing because a gift might be a bribe in disguise, but a bribe is never a gift in disguise. You see how that works? It's like a gift can be a bribe, and that makes it more confusing because the only thing that you have to look at differently is the gift. You look at the bribe for what it is. And if you do that, then if you're transactional, all you're going to see is what it is and just accept that and not what it means, right? I'm going to talk about a thing, and I don't mean to throw anyone under the bus, but it is a thing. I had a person in my life who was with a significant other, and they expressed basically a desire for a like promise ring, right? Some sort of indicator of essentially like the relationship reaching the point of marriage, right? Or being at least forever, if not marriage specifically. I think a promise ring is specifically for marriage, but you know, whatever. This person bought the ring. They did not make the promise. So they bought a ring with no promise involved. This is a promise ring, right? By definition of the ring itself. If you looked at it and looked up the ring, it would be like, this is a promise ring. The item description, promise ring. Not an engagement ring, it's a promise ring. But would that mean, if it doesn't have the promise, that it's a symbol of the same thing? Symbolisms, signifiers, and other indicators of certain things have now become like just bankrupt in their definition. All of these things end up looking like for instance, now it's become a lot more trendy to look like you have wealth or money than to actually have it. Like there's a YouTuber, Art Chad. I don't always agree with a lot of the things he says, but he's an art history major, and he talks about how like there's a word for it that is I'm missing because obviously I didn't script this. But it's like these indicators of like a Labubu. If you have a Labubu, now you can like sell a Labubu, and it's like, man, that nigga that bread. Look at him, he rocking a Labubu. You rocking certain brands, right? Nigga, I got the McQueens on. You feel me? I got the Docs on, nigga. I got the the Ricks. There you go, the Ricks. I'm thinking of Rick Owens. I'm not thinking of Doc Martens, and I'm not thinking of fucking the McQueens. Those are cool. I was thinking of the Rick Owens. They want Ricks. You know, you have the Ricks, nigga. You got the like, you know what I'm saying? Like you got the, I don't know if Louis V is what niggas still want. You know what I mean? There's mad other brands now, but still, it's like these are the indicators that you have the money. And if not have it, you had it. And now you're wearing it, right? They can tell this nigga got money. He has this stuff. This stuff costs money. If he has it, that means at one point he either had enough to spend. I'm saying he, it could be she. They had enough to spend this on and to still be okay. And we don't think like, oh, they might be in massive amounts of debts. Oh, they have the nice car. We don't think that they could just miss a payment and get that shit repoed. You know what I mean? Like we're just like, nigga, they got the crazy i8, nigga. I don't know if i8 is what niggas want still more. I'm not a car guy. I see this is the funniest part. When I try to think of specific examples of like these indicators, I'm like, nigga, I don't even know what niggas want. Like what's the poppin' thing that someone's like, you gonna have money. A Labubu makes sense to me. But like I'm not following those trends to be like, oh shit, niggas is on this right now. You know what I'm saying? Like I just kind of like, I seen niggas say Ricks. I seen mad people wearing Ricks and shit. It seems like that's what they want for now until the new thing pops up, right? But these indicators, these signifiers of success without having the meaning, because you could just be in debt. And it's like, well, fuck it, man. Why not? You only live once. I want nice things. I deserve nice things. And it's not to say you shouldn't have them, or not even to say that there isn't so much money out there that these people can't afford it. Because God forbid I'm pocket watching and just calling everyone broke because they're spending debt. You know what I mean? If you have the credit, that means at least you're being trusted to be able to pay that off, or you're in a position where even paying that off is okay, right? Because there's like a weird sort of balance there, right? And there's also these like pump and dumps and gambling. It's like, nigga, there's money to be made because there's money being printed, and because it's always being exchanged, and because there's so many other like ways to just make it. It's not to say that everyone's just broke and shit, but it is to look at it and to say, well, why are they doing certain things? You know what I mean? Like, why is there a sports gambling like problem? I won't say epidemic yet, but on the rise between young men. Because why are you gambling? Typically, people who are gambling aren't doing great, or they're doing so good that they can afford to lose some money, but they look the same. If you're in the casino, you won't know who's in there and who's like, I'm on my last dollar, and they're just trying to make a good come up until they have a reaction based on how much they make, right? Or, and sorry if it's a little bit, that might mean a lot for a nigga who just was on his last dollar. But if it's a lot, that still might be look the same for someone who had enough to spend a lot to make that even more, right? They still are going to feel that ecstatic. So it's even that is hard to see. But you're both in the fucking casino. You know what I mean? So that's the indicator. Nigga, we both in the place. That's the indicator. But that's hard to see where they're coming from. And so that's what I am focused on. And I think what a lot of people don't care. More people would be like, nigga, I'm here for the money. It don't matter where I'm coming from. It matters where I'm coming from. It matters what I'm coming for. And I think that's important to a degree. But it isn't everything. Like, what you're coming for is also usually dictated by where you're coming from. And I think understanding where you're coming from will help you know where you want to be, actually, and not just what you came for. What I am here for, I feel might be unattainable, but I have to continue to try anyways. And if I don't achieve it, learn how to be okay with knowing that I tried. I'm not sure how to get to do that, not because I can't accept failure, but because there would be other things that I could do that could potentially be a more surefire success, which then I could potentially use to catapult myself to better achieve certain things rather than going towards them directly. And this is a little confusing, but like, let's say I want to be an artist. Great. I could just do art 100% all the time, do nothing but art. Hopefully that makes money. Or I can make money and then just do art and be like, okay, well, now I can go and do things. I watched this YouTuber. He was a neurosurgeon and he quit his job and now he just does YouTube full time. And other things, I think of that. I don't know. I don't know what his fucking financial situation is. He's not putting everything out there, but he said, I quit my neurosurgery job, and he does this YouTube shit. To me, this is, I think, a lot of the ways we have been told to do things. Like, okay, do this, and then you can do what you love. That's like the retirement, right? Now in retirement, you can do what you love, rather than doing what you love initially. But also, we see nowadays, it's more accessible than ever to just go and make a living doing a thing that, even just like fucking 20 years prior wasn't something that was ever considered a possibility. And so with all of that, it's like all this money on the table, potentially it's like, let's do it. Like, I think the streaming bubble is popping. It's popping, it popped already, whatever. And it was a huge bubble, like the 2016 SoundCloud rapper bubble, where these things are, a lot of people did make it, and then they have their survivor bias and their stories of like, oh, we do it, you just gotta put it out there. But then there was a lot more people who failed or weren't talked about and didn't make it. And we don't even know if the people who made it are staying afloat from it. Like, all we know is that they had that like 15 minutes of fame. And if that 15 minutes lasted any longer than the actual 15 minutes, because that's just an expression, then we look at it and we see like, okay, this person made it, they did it. But then they might just be more like morally bankrupt in a way. They might just been like, well, I had to like sell, not literally, but could be like sell my soul in order to achieve or to maintain this level of shit. Well, there's a lot of artists who maybe are lesser known, right? A little smaller, humble beginnings. You know what I mean? And they didn't have to do that, but they don't live like the luxurious, glamorized like lifestyle of what we want like actors or like movie stars to be. Or they had that moment and then that moment passed and now they're just like regular fucking people. I think I might have talked about this before, but I don't remember, so I'll just talk about it again, for lack of fear of being a broken record. Young Jock was driving like Uber. And this is rapper shit, so people might not know who Young Jock is, but like, meet me in the mall, it's going down. That nigga was driving like Uber, Lyft, nigga. Young Jock is going down. Now, that's just like, back then they had like the one hit wonder type shits, but like even now and then, it's like you can have that's a 15 minute. You can have a few songs go viral and do well, bro. Soulja Boy was selling everything. Everything. That nigga had Crank That. They still play Crank That. Modern times, that's a lot harder to say. So many artists come and go and have their highlights that you just don't even see them anymore. Or they make so much money and now, you know, there's just so many smarter investments people can make and they know that the game's out there, right? There's so much access to information. There's probably people who've made a bunch of money, and if they did, now they found an accountant and they went to their accountant. They're like, okay, buy properties, put a little bit in the stocks and shit like that. Or, you know what I mean? Put in some crypto, whatever, blah, 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 make money back. You're good. We will do it for you. But like, also, there was a story about Rihanna's accountant fucking with her, right? And I'm using a lot of like artists, and there are a lot of black artists, because this is like my perspective looking from. I don't think Taylor Swift has a problem with money. You know? Like, I don't think so. But it's also because like Taylor Swift has a lot of connections, and she is, you know, I think an artist who does well for herself, not due to just who she makes music to, but how she goes about the music business. We fuck with Taylor Swift. We don't always fuck with the Swifties, but we fuck with Taylor Swift, right? We don't always fuck with her music, but we fuck with Taylor Swift. We don't think she's better than Beyonce, but we fuck with Taylor Swift. And that's the point, because someone who's like Taylor Swift, I think, can potentially do the thing that ends up being better for everybody, but might not, because it's probably not in her best interest to do so. It's probably better if they still like Taylor Swift. I don't know enough about the Please, Swifties, don't attack me, because I'm not trying to speak down on anybody or anyone besides maybe what Drake has chose to do. But again, Drake was one of my favorite rappers. So if more than anything, this is like a disappointment, because he just ended up not changing so much, but changing a lot. He just ended up revealing who he truly was. And after so long of thinking that I was seeing the real face, it just was a little disturbing. And that's the problem with wearing all these masks. It hides things under the surface that maybe, you know, if we would have saw initially, we would have been a lot more accepting of. But then we see this later on and we're like, I don't even know who or what that person is. But that's only if you weren't paying attention to, because I could have seen who he was. He could have been telling me who he was this entire time as an artist. And again, this is as an artist, and less of like a let me focus on the celebrity as a person, but on the way that they go about producing and continuing to be an artist, because that will always first and foremost be my perspective as someone who is like, how do you make an artistic endeavor a full-time sustainable, like, I guess, career job? And it's like, you gotta do everything. You gotta sell merch, you gotta go on shows, you got to sell product, you got to keep putting out product, you have to hit the right audience. I went to this town in this town called Sedona, which is in Arizona. Wow, that rhymes. Ona. Anyways, I went to a little local art shop, then I went to a fine art shop, and the price difference for these things were so insane. I got like a cheap little, like bracelet and flag and a painting for like $60. They, at the fine art show, bro, had like, I wouldn't even, that would be like a free donation. I wouldn't be able to do anything with that little $60. And how the fuck are these people mass producing these little items and making a bunch of little things, selling them for like $10, $30, $20, and these people are making one big piece, and they're getting this and selling it for like 10,000. Like, what the fuck, bro? Then art inherently then becomes a little bit classist too, because man, you need to know the right people, you need to have some of the right materials in order to make things. And if you're just like reusing certain things and your art's really sustainable, then you might only be able to sell it for a fraction of the price that someone else can by just making one piece. So you might need to make, as an artist, 1,000 pieces just for one person's. So, and is it because of their notoriety? Is it because they're such a better artist than you? Who's to say that is actually what it is? Who's to say they're better artists, right? And who's to say, because it's all subjective. So that's why it's hard for me, because a big artist can make a shitty song and still make a bag off of it, and a little artist can make a great song and have it go nowhere. That doesn't mean they didn't try hard. That didn't mean they had a better like quality product. It just means one got noticed and one didn't. And when you're looking at things like art and business, it's like, dude, sometimes the little artist can't make something as good because they don't have the means to production. But then sometimes them lacking access to those resources makes them a lot more creative, and what they make is so much more interesting due to the fact that they had to be resourceful. And that makes art great, because wow, you were able to make so much out of so little. And that's what we love from artists. But then there's artists who are like, wow, you had so much and you gave us such shit. And it's like, we still fuck with it because the name behind it, the brand behind it. Anyways, I like to think about art a lot. I like to think about how that is a business of being likable and being liked, where in most instances, like, no one has to like the CEO of like fucking Amazon or like Microsoft for them to do well. Like, personally speaking, the consumer doesn't have to look at them. Like, you don't think about that. You just like the product. And you're like, the product is good, I will get the product. But if the product is good, but the person isn't, that's also more of the transactional. We don't care about who you are. If you have to beat children on your personal life, in your personal life, you beat children and you step on kittens. And it's like, I don't know, makes a good hamburger. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we're not going to give a fuck as a general consumer. And that's hard for me to, like, accept. Because it makes a lot of sense. It's like, what does that have to do with me and the burger that I'm trying to eat, nigga? But it's also like, my nigga, maybe don't buy burgers for him so he doesn't have the ability to do that shit, at a grand scale and get away with it. Or like, let's shed some light on the fact that he does this crazy shit and at least I don't know, fucking publicly shame. Like, I don't know, bro. I don't know what the answer is beyond just maybe remove these people from these positions so they don't have the power and authority to do certain terrible things and get away with it. But I don't know, right? That's what I'm trying to look for. Maybe it's to have them change their ways and go to therapy and actually try to be better people, because if they're able to achieve so much, then clearly they're the right person in the position, but they just, have some terrible vices or, terrible, you know, tendencies, and they just, need to rectify that for things to be okay. Some things are irredeemable, some things are unforgivable, but no person is that, because we aren't just a sum of our actions. There's like a lot of inaction that describes who we are too, so then who are we and what are we? I find that when I am not worried about how I can ramble on and go and say things that may sound really confusing, that maybe I make a lot more sense. But I am also aware of the fact that I don't really have an audience of people who are going to further investigate what I say beyond what they feel about how it sounded. And that's just most people. My audience is whoever would listen to a nigga talk, you know what I mean, type shit. And if that's not much, if that's just the people around me, and these people around me only engage with it on a level where it's like, well, he said some shit, but I don't know, I just wanted him to do a thing and he didn't do that thing, so it's like, come on, my nigga. Or he said he wanted to do a thing, but he ain't do the thing. And then he said why that is difficult to do. And it just sounded like, to me, negative excuses. It sounded like invalid excuses. It sounded like if he wanted to, he would type shit, which is like, I think, the fucking worst thing to say about anything. Because sometimes it's not, right? It's like, let's say an addict, if he wanted to stop, he would. Nigga, they want to stop. They don't want to keep doing it necessarily. They might want to stop feeling a certain way, and this helps them do it. You know what I mean? If there's an addict seeking help, let me make that distinction. An addict who is trying to seek help, they might relapse. That doesn't mean they wanted to do it. It's just they didn't want to be or feel something else. And what helped them? Good or reliable always helped them. Like, I think we demonize people who have shortcomings because we like to act like we don't have any of our own. Like, we act like our shit doesn't stink. And I think those who have their shortcomings acknowledge them and also hold space for others people's shortcomings. They're the most well-rounded people. I don't know if people actually see that, though, from me. I don't think people, I don't know. So I think maybe some people might think, because my temperament and because my approach might be like a well-rounded thought process of trying to incorporate their perspective as well as mine, and an outside one that someone else could carry, while also, trying to make room for myself in there, like my own biases and preferences, that these people just think that I have a tendency to think that I'm right about things. But like, most people would just look at it from one way and then just see that. And then they will also try to do some projecting, and they think they're right. And they're just going to believe that they're right because it won't mesh well with their view of reality if it is anything else. And I'm okay with my view of reality being questioned because I question it constantly. But if I am with people who are so rigid in their viewpoints and their beliefs, conservative or liberal, as far as like political and just like stance, in terms of like openness to conversation, then we're not going to get anywhere. I'm either going to have to, it's going to be a war of attrition. I'm going to have to concede based on them being like, oh, I'm just going to stand firm and hold my ground, and he's eventually going to change his mind, or he's going to leave me alone. Or it's like, dude, can we like agree to disagree? And then, you know what I mean? And just like, or can we agree on one premise and then hopefully gain more understanding from that point? I think That's where I would like to be. Let's agree on a premise. And if I provide the premise, then they might think that agreeing with that premise means that I am right. But it's not about me being right. It's about the premise being somewhere we can start an actual conversation from. Most people won't want to agree. Most people don't like to eat crow. They don't like to say they're wrong or be wrong, right? It's like insurance has fucked us up because you can't admit fault anywhere. As soon as it's like, oh, I admitted fault, now you're all fucked up. But I think admitting fault and looking to correct it is the best course of action for making things right. But no one wants to make things right. They just want to win, it seems like. I, right now, need to figure out how to deliver bad news while also sparing someone's feelings, while also potentially having things get better. And it's like, how do you do that without just being the things that I said I didn't like? This seems like the best ways, right? Just be likable. Just say things. I know the not the right things to say, it feels like, but I know what people might want to hear. But if you're just what people, all you are or all you do is give people what you think that they expect. Who are you? Like, what are you? What do you become? Like, I don't want to be a chameleon. But that's not to say that I want to be so rigid that I can't change at all. There needs to be some balance, right? Of someone being like, I drew this line, I won't ever cross this. But also being like, you know what? Just maybe if I have more information and I realize that I drew this line presumptuously, I drew this line, just incorrectly. I drew this line without having all the necessary information, then I might just redraw that shit. And I just don't know. I think that's why they say it's about drawing a line in the sand type shit. Okay. So with all this rambling about the world and the thing like this, I am going to risk potentially sounding a bit like a fucking incel loser, dumbass, fucking silly ass nigga to articulate misogyny, all this other shit that I'm not, but whatever the fuck, you know what I mean? I think, okay, so sometimes, men too, I think sometimes when I have interactions with women, I cannot, it's like do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? You know what I mean? Like I was saying earlier. And I don't feel like it matters whether I'm either one. You just got to apologize and be appeasing to them if you want them in your life, because otherwise they may either kick you to the curb, or if not kick you to the curb, worse off, do something to harm you, to get even. I think because historically women have been disenfranchised and put in a lower position, that they look at men as a whole and they say, okay, what few men are responding. This is a lot of generalizations, not just with women, but with everybody. They look at a certain group as a whole and say, these people are the problem. So because these people are the problem, this individual is part of this, and so I am okay with now being or doing or treating them unfavorably because historically speaking they have been a part of the problem. That's a scary mentality, but it also makes a lot of sense. But it doesn't do anything towards rectifying the situation if a conversation isn't had. Now, in a lot of instances, not all men, not all women, not all blank, right? A generalization is how racism occurs and how a lot of people, say this person isn't this. And if not racism, then prejudice. If not prejudice, then fucking bigotry, and that's kind of just all that. That's probably the word. But then it's like, bro, it's like my nigga. It's like my nigga. When you want to just be right, that's fucking dumb. I don't just want to be right. But I don't want to be like happy if that shit is just an illusion. You know what I mean? Like if it's just fake. You know? Like a bribe and a gift. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to accept a bribe and fool myself into thinking that it's a gift. And I would hate to do that to anyone else. Never would try to. But I also just, yeah, like I don't want that. Nigga, that's it. I don't want that. If I have to convince myself this bribe is not a bribe and it's a gift, or have to allow someone to convince me that when it's clear that it isn't, and even if it's not clear, I could take a pretty safe bet or assumption that it is, then it's like I'd rather try to trust my gut there. But if you look at everything favorably and hope the best in all these instances, it's like fuck, dude. It's like, dude, it's like fuck, man. I think for me it's really hard because it's like, what's real, man? You know, like what is actually real? Like what is real? And I think that's why it's hard to look at something and be like, I mean, just to question whether there is an objective reality or not. I think many people wouldn't agree. They would say realities. Your perspective is your reality. And that may bring a lot of people comfort. That brings me nothing but fear and like existential dread. What do you mean my perspective is my reality? That means everybody is living in completely separate realities. And that doesn't make sense. We're all fucking here. Like we are here, like on this earth, like in this universe, like in this galaxy. Like in the same state, like in different states, like in the same country, like in the whatever fucking category you want to use to break it down, my nigga. We still exist in proximity with one another. What do you mean you're in your own reality? Nigga, you're telling me you're in Neverland and I'm in the like fucking the Milky Way? I'm on planet Earth. You know what I'm saying? Like that doesn't fucking make sense. You're in La La Land and I'm in fucking Earth. You know what I mean? Like I'm in North America. Like what the fuck do you mean? That's the shit that confuses me so much. I think this is where I like psychology due to the explanations that it gives for certain actions, inaction, or certain behaviors, I would say. 'Cause behavior covers that. Behaviors and other things that it explains as far as like the human psyche goes. But it also is used to kind of lie, for lack of a better word, about what truth is. Language can do the same. It inherently doesn't lean towards truth, because truth is more of a, I don't know, I don't want to say like a feeling, but it's kind of more of like a feeling. I am like, I'm extremely confused on what it would mean for someone to live in a different reality than I am, simply because they have a different perspective than I do. Because if that is true, if I'm someone who can have multiple perspectives, then I am a reality shifter. I am a reality bender. I can be in one reality and then another reality and then another reality and then another reality. And you're saying their perspective is their reality and they live in this one reality? Like that doesn't make any sense to me. But it helps, I think, people understand why someone can be adamant about their differences and believe that they're so correct, even if there's not just evidence, because evidence can lean towards one thing or another. It doesn't have to lean towards truth. It just leans to the point you're trying to make. It's like there is just it's just not true. You know what I mean? I don't think like certain things that just aren't true, right? They're not the truth. And it's not like, oh, this is a lie then. It's just like that could be an illusion, that could be a pseudo truth, that could be a half truth, you know what I mean? But it just doesn't fully encompass what the whole truth is. And the whole truth is what people would like to say is simple, but I think it's far more complicated than language has the ability to describe. So this is where we run into issues. The truth is, nigga, we are all like either atoms or energy or matter, right? Whatever, energy precedes matter, matter precedes energy. We're just like little clumps of fucking chemicals that are like loosely but semi like pretty closely bound together that have, you know, like autonomy. And where that comes from is debatable, but it's like, nigga, we're just these things. So my question then, are trees people? You know what I mean? That's another question I have, because I think trees are kind of like people. But they're not like, they don't, maybe we just, since I'm not a tree, I can't think as a tree would. So then I can't have the reality of a tree unless like my body, you know, goes into the ground and, you know, it degrades, and uh it just degrades, probably not the word I'm looking for, but that's okay. But it, like, you know what I mean? It like just I all my components go back to the earth and help foster, or you know, like some other organism. Um but it won't be sentient, and it won't be the form of what the person who is speaking is now, and it won't have the same properties spiritually as well, right? But it would it not still be me, right? Like, even if they're far and wide, is me not me? You know what I mean? Like, how close do they have to be, as close as they are specifically now for it to be me? Like, and I think yes, but also like, why does it have to be, you know? Like, why can't I be my atoms spread far and wide, or my ashes spread far and wide? People put people's ashes in the water. People put people, families and other people spread someone's ashes in the water. Do they become the water, or are they still their ashes? If the ashes are eaten by like a fish or something like that, do they become the fish, or are they still the ashes? What are they? I going back to the really realities. I think that we do have an objective reality, but our perception, our perspective of it is what varies. And that is where we don't create different realities, we create different interpretations of the one objective reality. Um and what is that reality? I mean, there's a lot you can say, but I was think it's like, it's that for the life that we have, is that there's life here on this planet Earth. All of us are here to together. Um and there's certain things that we as a whole must that we aren't doing to sustain it, because we can make money by doing things that might destroy it. And that's that's the reality. You know what I mean? Like, we're doing things that we know might destroy the earth, because it might make money, and it might optimize us out of having to work any harder than what's comfortable. And that's very human, to be so intelligent that we develop tools in order to make things easier for us. But if these tools end up being what cause our destruction, then we optimize ourselves out of like our own lives. And like, that's scary, because we should be like, okay, well, maybe I don't want to do this. Maybe it's hard. Maybe there's a lot of easier ways to get this done. But the way that we're doing it now will keep us all here for longer. That seems like, to me, the earth has given us everything that we have needed in order to continue to like be on it. And the way we are using it is not in a way that is recycling the things that we need. And we're needing more and more things because we have built more and more things for comfort, or for, if not comfort, right, then for like, I don't want to say convenience either, but that's another one. But these are like negative words. I want to say like, it's like for the betterment too, right? Because I don't think like the automobile is a terrible invention, but I think like the fuel we use for it probably is a terrible thing. You know what I mean? But like also, if there's any other resource we could do, that would be all right. I'm in pure yap mode right now. So let's get to it, bro. All right. Electric vehicles, AI data facilities, or whatever they're fucking called. Why are they using water that they can't reuse, or why aren't they using seawater, which is like, we don't drink seawater. Like, why? It's cheaper. They're using water like municipal water because it's cheaper, because they don't have to transport that water. They don't have to waste money on the desalination process of the seawater. It's purer, so they don't have to, worry about it being potentially not pure enough, and for like chipsets and shit like this. So they're instead using our municipal water, bro, our bath water, our drinking water, all the shit that we use to drink and clean and use on a daily basis, to fucking make chips and AI facilities and shit like that cooler, bro. And that shit is I don't know if it's evaporating and then coming back to us, or if it's just like that shit is gone, because there's a process of recapturing that water, and could, like, it evaporates, you keep all the vapors, and then like you basically force it to go through the water cycle, therefore reusing that water. It's a process, and it isn't perfect, and I don't know everything about it, but there's a way that you can do that in order to continue to utilize this water, right? That's why a water cycle exists, you know what I mean? So that water can be used, it can evaporate, and then we can get it again. But that's my fucking problem, right? Like, there is no oil cycle. There is no like petroleum cycle of like, let's use the petroleum, it's gonna burn, and then we're gonna make more petroleum, we're gonna make more oil, fossil fuels, whatever you want to call it, from that. So why not do that, right? There's a sun which comes at a certain time. We can use the sun and shit like this, like just wind, right? Like wind is another thing which we can channel to make electricity. There's certain things, right? The earth is constantly rotating. And so like, if we can find a way to use that in order to generate power, then that would be pretty cool. But if we started to do that and like maybe it ruined the night and day cycle, or the earth stopped spinning, then that would be extremely tragic. And some places would freeze over, and some places would just be scorched, and some places might just be perfect, and everybody would have to go there. But okay, so going back to this, there's other things on the planet which have a natural process which they recycle themselves, and the things that we've decided to use don't recycle themselves unless there is like, it's a longer process. So you can create oil. That's not to say that oil doesn't have a process of being created, because it does come to be in a specific way. And the way that it comes to be is, right, like it's like fucking things that are in the ground. I think it's like, I don't know if it's organic. It has to be organic, but it might have to be. That being pressurized under a bunch of rock and rubble and shit like that, and it becoming a liquid, and it mixing with that shit, and then it becoming the fuel. So whatever, that's rough and probably not the exact way, but you know what I'm saying. But that takes like a really long time to do. Takes a bunch of organic things dying. So oil is just like the blood of that shit, essentially. When it's like, we can just use water because there's so much of it. And the only reason that we are able to be on this whole fucking planet is because there's enough water and trees for us to live. So why not, if possible, we already use trees and we may be using them a lot too, like, way too often. Why not clean water? And also this, right? If we fix or add and increase the methods of purifying water, we work on that, then we will have like way more water to utilize. Or we have these dams and things like that, right? And we find freshwater sources, and we block them off, and then we do things. And these are things I'm sure are already being done to a degree, but then it confuses me on why there's all this fear on like water with the AI use. It's like, oh, they're wasting all the water. Like, I know, I get it. I'm not saying that that's not something to fear, to be worried about, but why is this the thing at the forefront and not like the fact, like what AI is doing, and like more just like oil being like, I mean, oil getting more expensive, and at some point being a little bit more scarce, when it's like this is the thing that most of not everything runs on. Also, we probably could do with like more stuff with nuclear, but I'm not smart enough to know exactly what. And these are things that I'd like to talk about and do a lot more research on, therefore potentially brainstorming certain things that we can utilize or put money into in order um to improve and iterate on the design, so that we are using some more sustainable options for the everyday appliances and, like, I don't know, items and fucking devices and contraptions and other things, whatever word you want to use, that we utilize in our daily lives. Like, if there's a way to do that, then maybe we're able to save ourselves from what seems like an inevitable, like, collapse of society due to the things that we've built it upon being essentially shaky and unstable and of limited resource, which takes a really long time to re-up on. I hope to be able to save the world by that, but like, nigga, come on, I'm one guy and I don't have the means, and if I did, I would probably impact industries so much so that they would probably be like, well, let's get this nigga the fuck out of here, because like he thought of some method that might be really good to use, and like if we do that, then like he's gonna take money off of our table, and like we're gonna just get, you know what I'm saying? That's what makes it hard. It's like all of us have to be on board, because one nigga can't just do it, you know what I'm saying? Otherwise Jesus would have came here and saved it when he first came, but he got to come back with the fire sword, if you believe in that kind of stuff, which, I mean, I was raised in it, and unfortunately or fortunately I do. So like, flame sword it is. But if he does come back, when he does come back with the flame sword, right, that just means that like a new earth. But it's like, bro, new earth, but then there's judgment and everyone here goes one place or the other, then what's the point of the new earth for us to come back to? Why would we want to leave heaven? Why would we want to leave? You know what I mean? Why would those people be able to leave hell? And if they did, why didn't they come back? I have a lot of questions. Also, someone said this, and I think I've said this before, but I don't know. It's like, if an angel can fall from grace, then maybe like a demon can find it. Is that possible, or are they just damned because they just aren't doing the right things, because they're just not the right kind of person? Are there just good souls and bad souls? Is there a quota for heaven and hell? Do these people need to go there? If you believe in that stuff, and if you don't believe in the afterlife or anything, and like this one life is the life we got, then why not try to make it the longest it is? Not like that Brian, I think Brian Thompson is his name, the dude who's like a vampire and is trying to like live forever, because like that's also scary to me too, because like, dude, you know, death is like the one guarantee, and you're like, we should try to avoid it for as long as possible, but also like we gotta consider the ethics of all the shit that we're doing. And like, also, man, it's cool that you are always doing this, but it can be like sort of an obsession, which is great, but like, why live forever if it's not going to be a good time? Why also live and do things in the short term if, I guess, short term wins ultimately, because we know our lives are limited, and you know, lifespans are increasing, but we know that we have a limited time and we have a limited like supplies and resources. Even though it's like, man, money isn't scarce, they could just print more, bro. It's not based on anything other than just the fact that you believe that it is. We can just keep doing things. Listen, I know that with specific research and further of the topics I'm talking about, there is some truth there. There are people who are already talking about that. There's people who are working towards making these sustainable options. I'm not a sustainability major or anything like that. I don't even know if this is what they do, but I know we are not doing shit right for the continuation of humanity on Earth. So we cannot just learn how to colonize another planet, or colonize is probably not the right word, whatever. Go to another planet and then be like, let's make this one work because this one was fucking perfect. What are the chances that this one was just fucking perfect? Why not just keep this one and maintain it and make it as cool and good as possible for everyone? The answer is money. The question is why. The answer is money. But that's not the answer to solve. I don't know if solve is the right word. That doesn't make things better. That doesn't make things better. In terms of like keeping the world together, what the fuck has money done for the world? Like specifically Earth. Like money has got us great things, but like, bro, it's us. It brought us good things, the humans on Earth, and other non-humans too, right? There's some money that's been used so that we can create certain things that like preserve certain areas and animals and shit. And that's cool. So I'm not saying like it's done nothing, but it's like, people say this about technology. What a recent, in the last decade plus, what recent technological advancements has really benefited life in a substantial way, such as like the automobile or the telephone or like, I don't know, shit like that. Like, fucking transistors. You know what I mean? And other things like that. Like, what really have we fucking, and that's like more than a decade, but you know what I'm saying, bro? Like, a century. Like, what advancements have we really have that have been so significant so they improved our lives vastly more? It's like, have they not just been comforts and conveniences that may not be the best for us long term? And I don't know. I'd like to think that we would probably have to do like a survey or a poll, but then that would be biased because certain people would need those things and certain people wouldn't. And then it's like, who's right about what? We'd all just have to measure it based on how negatively it impacts the Earth. And that would be the most objective. But we can't be like, hey, Earth, do you fuck with Waymos? Or like, nah. You know what I mean? Do you fuck with the AI? Or like, nah. You know what I mean? Not Waymo specifically. Sorry to single y'all guys out. But you know what I mean? Like, shit like that. I be yapping. And I think sometimes this helps me from falling into despair at looking at things and seeing that, nigga, they're not great and they aren't going to be great. And you just have to either accept it and try to do the best that you possibly can in spite of how it affects everybody else around you. And then I'm like, okay, how do I make it better for me and everyone else around me? And it's like, that's a terrible way to look at it if you want to be good for yourself. So I'm just like stuck, man. And I'm just like, well, then let me just not be a burden to Earth by contributing negatively, by engaging with certain things that end up making it harder for not us, but the Earth to keep us here. But then I can't do anything if I'm gone besides just contribute with my cells and my fucking atoms and my matter, right, to the Earth. And that's something, right? Maybe just make us all oil. That'll take some time, but maybe, if I'm oil, then at least, I can help them keep going, I guess. I don't know if it'll be around. If I become oil, I don't know if everything will still be around. But you know what I mean? It's like, dude, I don't want to just do that. I don't know if it's giving up or giving in. But I just want to give it a shot. I want to give it a chance. I want to try to do something that's better. And maybe it's perspective that I offer. And that's what I am here to do, to offer this perspective. But who the fuck is listening and who cares? And why would they if they don't like me? And do I make them all like me so then I can tell them these things? And if I do, wouldn't they just stop liking me immediately because it impacts their business? It clashes with their perspective or their realities. I don't know. I just would love to make art, and like not like big art on like a grand scale, but like, I mean, I guess this is it, right? Little shitty unscripted videos where I just yap, and then maybe I spend some time actually doing the research on the things and then telling people about it, and then hopefully impacting business leaders or people across the world to make better decisions for the world around us. But help who with what, and if I do, will they use it to actually help anyone but themselves and their constituents? Or will they use it to help everybody? Okay. There's obviously a lot more to say. There always is. But there is never enough time. And at some point I gotta give it a break and like eat and sleep and poop and like work of some sort. And this is work too. I think this is definitely work, but does it work? You know? It works for me. I don't know if that's enough. I don't know if it's good enough for me, but if a tree falls in the woods and no one is around to hear it, did it happen? Right? Like, did it even happen? If I'm here and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna make this YouTube video and offer perspective and maybe sound like a broken record, and also maybe then do certain research on things to then maybe, learn more about it, and then also fact check those articles and fucking other things that I read to make sure that I'm actually getting, real knowledge and not just, reading like an AI prompt and thinking I know it all, because I'm not that arrogant to think that. But like, also they say leave it to the professionals. It's like, nigga, the professionals who's fucking got us here, nigga. Like, maybe we should leave it to all of us. Maybe just a regular guy. Oh man, bro, idiocracy. Fuck. All right, look, Mike Judge, thank you for being who you are and making things, but like, bro, you be too smart sometimes. I think he's autistic as fuck. But maybe that's why. Also, because I'm going in. Do we get rid of? Because if we can do this thing like genetically, and then we give everybody access to this, because why not, right? If you can get rid of like Down syndrome, you can get rid of like autism, right? You can get rid of like any sort of either developmental or I guess developmental disorder, right? Do we do this? Right? Do we do this to make everyone normal, I guess, air quotes on normal, right? Or do we preserve our differences in order to gain perspective on the specific challenges that are faced by these people? And then do we not create technology to help for this? I saw a random fucking YouTube, or I think it was a TikTok ad for a girl who has a glass eye who put on makeup and got makeup on her glass eye, and it was like antibacterial wipes for her glass eye. And I was like, this is so fucking cool, because this is such a niche specific product, and it's great that we have this, because obviously there isn't like a ton of women who have a glass eye, or a prosthetic eye, and need like an antibacterial wipe for it so their socket doesn't get infected. But isn't it great that exists for those people? Like, do we fuck with the walk-up ramps, or are we just gonna get rid of it and be like, nigga, you gotta walk like the rest of us? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's fucked up. Because what if they can't? Or what if they could, but they can't anymore? And it's like, well, then fuck you. Like, sounds like a skill issue, right? Like, what the fuck? I, I need to go to bed, but I probably am more happy to do this than anything else, because maybe if even if it's just the ramblings of a dumbass nigga on the internet, maybe it's more than that if it lands on the right ears. And I hope the right ears then do something with it that's positive. But I don't know. I am not the interpreter. I'm so scared to put out any of this like significant art with well documented research and all this sort of shit, thinking like here's this and here's that, because man, what if it falls into the wrong hands? What if it falls onto the wrong people? Obviously I do have time in order to put some things out, nigga. I'm in fucking, well, it's late. This will come out probably not when it's like, not now, but like I've been talking for like at least, all right, like 2 hours, and it's not daytime. I'm not actually like in this forest that's behind me, as noted by the headphones, microphone, condenser microphone, and like gaming chair that I'm sitting in. But if it falls on, if it goes to the wrong people, they could do far worse with it than if I were to keep it to myself. The truth will somehow always find a way to get out there. And if I try to be a conduit for the truth, is conduit the right word? Conduit sounds like the right word, but I could be wrong. It works for now. A channel for conveying water or other fluid. Yeah. So if I'm a conduit for the truth, at least if I try to be, what then do I hope to, like, what is the what? You know, it's the what, bro. It's like, then what then? What now? Because a lot of the time I think the truth is hidden and obscured from people, because what they do with it may not be good. But the truth is always, I think, better to be given than to be withheld. I don't know, but I will try to be a conduit for the truth. And specifically right now, I don't think this is exactly what I'm doing. I think right now I'm offering a lot more perspective. There is some little truth nuggets here and there with the questions that I ask, and with some of the ways that we operate and look at things. So I guess I'll just continue to use my perspective to convey the truth as accurately as possible, even though I know language is, I don't know, it's kind of not, it's like not the perfect medium for it. It's like low key the best thing we have, but only because like human consciousness hasn't, we have rejected certain other ways that human consciousness can receive truth in favor of creating realities that don't exist by saying that our perspective is reality, rather than just that we live in reality, but we perceive it differently based on our like upbringing, where we're from, you know what I'm saying, what we went through, like our psychology and our sociology, right? All that kind of shit. We just say, okay, my perspective is my reality, but why and how and what is that? Where did it come from? Just ask another question. Just keep asking these questions. Hopefully we get somewhere. And it will take the collective conscious evolving for humanity to be where it should be and needs to be. But That is a hard thing because that puts responsibility on the individual to do it for themselves, and every individual cannot do it for themselves. We all need help. We all need help, but we all have to do it ourselves. That's the confusing part about it. We all need help to do it. We can't do it by ourselves. We have to all do it individually so that we can get there. That's the difficult thing. I hope to be able to do it for some of us and have helped a small number of us, specifically those niggas who I reach online, predominantly in Arizona, based on where I'm located. You know what I'm saying? But I could probably reach people far and wide if they wanted to hear me, if they gave it to me. But also, nigga, I'm not trying to do no Charlie Kirk shit, no disrespect to the, the late, I'm not gonna say great, but like, you know what I mean, the late nigga. Cause like, obviously he thought he was doing something that way, but that was his perspective. And a lot of it was him also leaning towards more conservative viewpoints and beliefs, and having them pay him and endorse him based on that. And I'd rather, like, no, I don't think anybody would pay or endorse me about the things that I say unless like I decided to speak favorably about them, unless they liked me, right? This is why it's hard to be likable, but it's probably the best thing to do. There was an experiment. This will be the last place I go to. It was called what the hell was it called? Something with a C. Was it like the conformance? I think it was like the conformance test or something like that. Let me double check this. Da da da. The conformist X study, conformity study. All right, it's the most famous conformance study is the Asch conformity experiment. Solomon Asch, wise man, in the 1950s. This is an AI answer, but this is AI sometimes has the shit we need. It's unfortunate. It's accurate. It helps. It's better than a Google search because it allows us to speak sometimes in like regular language rather than specifically through keywords and, other types of like, I don't know, better I can't say queries all the times, but it's queries. I want to say queries. Fallout 4. And like Mary Carey. Anyways, that's me getting back where I always do. All right. Anyways, Solomon Asch in the 1950s was showed that individuals often conform to a group's incorrect judgment to fit in normative influence, or because they doubt their own perceptions, informational influence, even when the group's answer is clearly wrong. With 75% of participants conforming at least once. How the study worked. The task. Participants judged the length of lines, comparing a target line to 3 line comparisons. Only one person was a real subject. The others were actors called confederates. Isn't that interesting? Instructed to give obviously wrong answers on specific trials. The findings: many subjects went along with the wrong group answer, denying their own senses, demonstrating significant social pressures. Here are the takeaways that AI decides to write up. Normative social influence, conforming to fit in and avoid social disapproval. My nigga, these niggas would deny looking at the truth objectively in front of them so that they can fit in. Ain't that fucking crazy? Isn't that why it's like that's why you want to survive? Like, because you want people to like you. Look, bro, disagreeing with these niggas, they might like you. They may not like you. They might try to hurt you. They might try to do all types of shit. But at least you was speaking the fucking truth, right? Anyways, informational social influence, conforming because you believe the group is better informed. My nigga, you can see, like, you have perspective type shit. Power of the minority. Even one dissenter significantly reduces conformity, showing the importance of allies. So that basically, and someone already talked about this. Many people should talk about this. I think everybody should know about this experiment to understand, and maybe not know. That, what we should do is we should understand this, and we should work against our. We should work against doing what this experiment has proven. We should work against just being conformist. You know what I'm saying? But we shouldn't do so like just arbitrarily. We should do so within reason. Um you know what I'm saying? Anyways, so the last thing was saying basically, as long as you have at least one person who is like, nah, bro, clearly this is better, and all the other actors are like, nah, bro, this line is, or not better, like more accurate to the middle line, right? The line that we saying is closest in length to this other line. It's like when you okay, so when you have at least one person who looks at the truth with you, regain a lot of that confidence to be like, you know what, maybe I will disagree. That's why it's just like, bro, you and one other person, you become one. This is why I believe in what I would call marriage, right? When you and a person become one, at least in terms of the religion sense, but it's more of a financial contract for a lot of people. So I get why people don't do it. But even if just like we're talking about in a romantic sense, like you and a person become one, I think this is the peak of humanity. And the collective conscious is if we were all essentially in this sort of like oneness with everybody else around us. That's harder to do, and doesn't necessarily mean it has to be romantic. It needs to be empathetic and sympathetic so that we can feel with and for each other all together. But that is hard because so many people go through so many things that are so much more difficult than we are maybe capable of handling. So we shut that off, or we shut ourselves from these realities, experiences. Or some of us are masochists and we like to go into these things and we watch sad movies or horror movies just so we can feel something. When someone's experience might be akin to a horror movie, why must we simulate it? The circuses are too fake. The bread is too expensive. We might be seeing a fall of an empire, but we also might be able to create a better one right here with what we have. And I think it's really up to us to try to do that for the world, because I don't know where or what we're going to go into next, but like, geez, brother, I hope it's good. All right, man. I'm going to bed. Thanks for existing, internet, and thank anybody who happens to maybe come across this and thinks about it and does something positive with it for not only themselves but the environment and for the people around them. And to all you lame ass, bribing ass niggas and not gifting ass niggas, and I don't mean literal gifts, because your presence, right? Your presence of mind is a gift. Fuck you, suck my dick with authenticity. You know what I'm saying? But I also hope you get better. And I mean better in terms of like more present to helping other people, and use your gifts to help us remain here and better. And it probably would have been a better ending if I just ended before and didn't tell people to suck my dick. But, oh well, you know? Oh well. Life ain't perfect, and neither am I. So I'll try to be better with my language and not offend people. But I'm going to. And I should care about it enough to try to alter my speech. but not enough to alter everything about who I am. And I mean everything. Some things about me can change. I'm not perfect. Some things about everyone else can change to be better for everybody else. And not just be better for everybody else, for them, but for us too. The world, bro. We all live on this planet. Whatever your country is, whatever your nationality is, whatever race you want to subscribe to, whatever your social standing, whatever your anything, bro. We all live on this earth. Sure, niggas went to like the moon or some shit or whatever the fuck, and that's pretty cool for them. And I don't know why the fuck Katy Perry was a part of it, but like, sometimes Katy Perry just gotta go places because California girls, they're undeniable. My fucking goodness, are you serious? Oh. All right, yo. But we all are on Earth, and we only got one of them. So let's look at the Earth as our vehicle, and we're all collectively driving it into the ground, and let's like all try to work on like the maintenance of Earth through sustainability, and maybe not just like abandon ship, because like who's the captain? Who's gonna come down with it? It's because the captains don't seem to be doing that. The captains probably just want to take their little lifeboat and be okay. Oh my gosh, a lifeboat protocol, bro. Quantum Break is on my page. Watch Quantum Break. I think that's what it's called. Paul, I don't remember his last. Paul Serene tried to make the lifeboat protocol, and basically it was like this nigga went and saw the end of the world and was like, hey, I'm going to try to not do that by having a select group of us be okay when it happens and be able to live. When it's like, my nigga, you probably should have just tried to not let that happen. And I think the only way that it couldn't happen is through his death, because through the knowledge, he was always going to do something about it. And this is exactly why sometimes having the knowledge and doing something about it is terrible. You don't need to have knowledge to have. You don't need to. Knowledge is empowering in itself, and it's what you do with that knowledge that is like very important. But also just having the knowledge of it is also crazy. That's why the knowledge of the truth is an amazing thing, but it also does usually compel action. It compelling inaction is a hard idea to understand, but it's through understanding, I think, the narrative of Jesus, even if you're religious or not, that we understand that Jesus knew the truth of his own demise and didn't do anything about it, because doing so would probably be worse in terms of like the narrative. If he was like, all right, instead of this, I'm going to use the flame sword that I'm going to come back with, and I'm going to just get out of here, then, we'll be okay. And a lot of Christians probably aren't going to like me talking about this, because I'm like making light of it and saying things about Jesus like sacrifice in ways that aren't, in the language that they appreciate. But like, honestly, bro, if you just if we're able to analyze religious studies, because the books have so much knowledge and truth in them, if we're able to analyze like the books and doctrines that most religions have and understand them with like as much like literacy as possible, then I think we will gain a lot of truth and connection, a lot of understanding to truth and connection with ourselves and the world around us better than we would if we just held these as these words. These are words, bro. Like, these are words. These are words that we hold in with such gravitas. I love the word gravitas, right? We give it so fucking much, bro. We make these words so heavy, bro. And it's like, nigga, you can't say anything about the words that are in these words, because these words mean something to me. They mean everything to me. And it's like, bro, they should. It's great that it does, but it shouldn't. it, like crusades, like jihad, like whatever you want to call holy wars, bro. Like it should be a thing that we all can connect over. We should all just like whatever the most fucking big show or song was, bro. Like if we were just like, you know what? Let's just look at the next religion like this is that. Maybe we're not all just like the biggest fans of it, but we all engage with it in some way and be like, oh, okay, hey, there's maybe some truth there, maybe not. And then we kind of move forward with that. And like we just kind of like all are engaging with it, at least to a point of understanding and liking it. If religion was like Gangnam Style, you know what I'm saying? If religion was like Gangnam Style. Anyways, people don't like me because I maybe sound like a know-it-all, but that's exactly why they didn't like Jesus, because he sounded like a know-it-all. And I'm not Jesus, but like there's a thing in all of us that people would call the divine spark. And like we can all be gods. We won't all become gods. And when I say gods, people will probably think that I'm saying it's like arrogant. Oh my gosh, you think you're so good, you can be good. Like, no, bro. I'm saying I think we're all capable of this, but we choose lower forms of existence due to comfort and other things. Comfort really is the word, bro. It's a bad word. It doesn't fully encapsulate what I mean, but it's there. It's really there, and it does some justice. You don't want to be uncomfortable necessarily, but it's more so like we don't we are so used to a way of being in front of us, and some of us have gotten so good at doing it that we wouldn't even dare try to rock the boat a little bit and be like, well, maybe things are, you know, a little better in the water, you know what I mean? Maybe I should dip a toe in. And it's because a lot of us can't swim, you know? But that's why life is like Gangnam Style. Cuz we're all Psy. We just need a little kick. You know what I'm saying? We just gotta keep kicking too. And that's why I fuck with Sanji, bro. That nigga be using his feet, bro. He be cooking niggas with his feet and be cooking food with his hands. His feet, he's here to kick ass and cook food. And that's stressful, so he chain smokes cigarettes. Oh, dude. Well, for what it's worth, for what I remember, I know that being so tapped in to self is hard for other people to accept and agree with because they expect it to come along with certain achievement. And when it doesn't, they think it's due to lack of effort, the lack of consistency, to lack of something that is just isn't true. It's just through lack of care, dude. People don't really care to be uncomfortable with somebody saying things like I'm saying. They would rather just watch Love Island. You can interchange that with like Jersey Shore or fucking whatever ended up being the watching people basically engage in degenerate behavior. You'd rather either watch it or engage with it ourselves. Those are our vices. I get it. I don't like it, but I get it. Every now and again, I can get back tapped into it Every now and again, some people need to read books for this. I probably should too. Maybe I would have better language to describe it. Maybe I'd have more depth to go into certain things like the optimization as far as just like, yeah, certain things and studies that I'm bringing up and everything. And then because I can have something to reference, more people would be, happy to engage with it further because then they wouldn't feel like it's just like coming from my brain or like I'm just making things up or I'm just saying things and they just got to take my word for it. You know what I mean? Like they could have some more to engage with beyond just what I'm saying in this moment. But I don't know. This is nice. This helps me. And I hope it helps somebody else somewhere. All right. That's it for real this time. I love you, planet Earth, and all who inhabit it. Let's try to be okay. Peace.